Hi, this is the case study of the classroom. What I'm doing is cancelling the creation of the mass model in this project because I actually have a mass family that I'm going to bring in. So if I say import load family, I point to my folder, which is the Vasari mass families, and I've got a simple form of a school that I'm opening and bringing into my project. So it's in here now, it's on the browser, and all I need to do is drag it out and drop it into the project environment. Now the warning message is simply telling me that there are mesh objects that I won't get volumes from. Well, I know that the mesh objects are the patio and the shade area for the school itself. And I color coded the area of the classroom just to make it a little more obvious what I was working with, just one volume. The first thing I want to do now is I want to go to the Analyze tab. A little difference in 1.1 is the location icon's a little smaller, but when I click on that, I'm actually already logged into the remote servers, and my site is, I already had typed in and searched, and it's Accrington, north of England. There are adjacent weather data files, and it's selected the one that was closest. So I've got the accumulated data of 25 years or so available, and if I wanted a different weather data file, I could pick it, or if I wanted to, I'll go back to the one that I had. If I wanted to, I could also, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this and turn on the map. If I wanted to relocate my project, you see I can actually pick it up and move it to wherever its exact location is. So I'm going to drop it in here, and I'm going to go with the default, the closest weather data file. If you had a large body of water, or you had a radical change in elevation, it may be that the closest weather data file is not the one that you want, but you can check that out on the site itself. So I'm now ready to do the study. It knows the location, has all of the access to the database. There is the weather data file. So I'm going to pick my school building, and I'm going to say I want to apply mass floors, and it's just the ground floor. I'm just pushing that through the model. I get that warning message again, but I already know that it's really not of any consequence to what I'm doing. If I were to go to my floor schedules, it's got all of the data regarding the volume, floor perimeter, floor area. I'll come back to my 3D. I now want to actually run the study, so I'm going to go back to the Analyze tab and go to the energy settings. You see here I can choose from different building types. So what I had typed in was just, I typed in S, and it took me down on the list to here, and I picked school or university. I can tell it whether I want it to create an energy model, yes or no, with the checkbox. I do. I don't want an offset distance, so that's why that says 0. The offset distance would be like a zone around the perimeter of the building that maybe was set back 15 feet. Good for maybe an office building, but not for my little classroom. Under the conceptual constructions, I can go in and look at the walls and see, is this appropriate for a mild climate like the north of England? Well, it looks pretty good to me the way it is, but I know that I can make changes later to the mass roof, floors, glazing, whatever, by actually customizing it for individual surfaces. Percentage glazing, I'm going to go in and say 80%. What you do is, if you had a building that typically was, that percentage was repeated on different faces, this would be very useful. On this particular building, it's a beginning, and then you're going to go and actually make changes later. For the skylight, I happen to know that the percentage of skylight area on the roof is 5%, so I'm picking that. I went ahead and picked values from here to say that, okay, let's assume that the HVAC system is something akin to residential. This is not a real large school. This is like an individual classroom that's being constructed, so something in a residential scale seems appropriate. I also went in and I said that the operating schedule for the building is 24/7, just in case the selection of school meant that the assumption was that it would be closed at weekends. This actual building is going to operate at the weekends and be a resource for the community at large. So when I do that, it applies the settings to my building, and I've got my model there. I can look at it and see my 80% glazing on the faces. So let me show you how to change one of the faces here, and then I'll come back after I've changed the rest of them to complete the movie. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm looking at the masked surfaces, and I'm using the tab key to toggle through to the point where I can find the external wall. I then come down in the properties palette. I'm going to move this out in case my movie thing gets in the way, my movie capture screen, let you read it a bit more easily. So here's the exterior wall, and what I'm doing down here, I scroll down to find this information, is I'm saying I don't want the values set by the energy settings, which was my 80% glass, but I want to do this by surface. But in this particular example, if I just refer to my notes for the that side of the building, this is approximately in the bird hide, it's approximately 14% glazing, and I can go in here and set the height of that glazing. I can tell it whether it's shaded or not, and I can tell it what the shade depth is over the building. And just to show you, I don't have to change this because in my general settings I had said typical mild climate, so I'm really good to go. When I do that, I change the surface. I'll stop the movie here and I'll pick up when I've changed the other surfaces. So what I'm going to do is edit the individual faces of the other surfaces to change them to the values of the actual percent glazing that they have. Although, let me do one more change while I'm here, because I just want to point out something. If I open the family that this was created from, is before I brought in the family, I picked this form and I said let's add an edge. So where I had a situation where I've got a wall that is planar, but I have different percentages of glazing within it, I can pick to add divisions on that wall, to, if you like, to divide that into two separate surfaces instead of one. I'll just delete that because I've already made the changes where I needed to make them, which was down here and on here on the surface of my model. So I'll just load the updated model back into my Eco Classroom project and overwrite the existing. So it's now up to date. Let me stop the movie there and I'll continue later. Okay, so what I've done at this stage is I've gone to the other surfaces, you see around my model, and I've applied the percentage of openings to the surfaces. There's no openings at the back. There's I think 15% there and 22% there, and then these two have shading areas. And because I divided up this area here, if you can see, that's the large glazed area that's open to the classroom space, and this is a smaller window area that was open to the really like a kitchen area. So by dividing up the surfaces, I'm able to go in and make my model. Let me close the window there. I'm now ready to do the actual study, right? So I can go up to the Analyze tab and say Analyze the model. And I can even, I believe, click on the results and compare, which would take me to the site. I wasn't expecting that. There we go. That was something on my graphics card, I think. This is the default name of the report that it's about to produce. So I'll say, I can change the name or just say OK. And then what I was about to do was go up to the results and compare and click on that, so I could actually show you how it reports on the percentage completion for the I clicked on the top here. I'm just letting it show me the data that it wanted to display for me. I'm going to come over here, and you can see there's the analysis that was just done. Let me just check something. 348. That one. These are previous analysis. So I'll just show you I can delete them to get rid of things that are up there, and go back to the one that I just created. So what I'm doing is just scrolling down. We'll look at the grid information that I got. I mean, I know that it's got, from the weather data file, it's got the maximum and minimum temperatures, 83 and 21. It's got the floor area, 2,468 square feet. It assumes 57 people for the building. Overall, an external window ratio of 23%, or 0.23, 23%. Knows the local fuel prices, and it's given me an estimate on the 30-year life cycle energy cost of $96,702. On the charts, it's giving me a breakdown of carbon emissions, energy use, and much more. I'll come back to this later, because what I'm going to do is create the same model in a bit more detail and then compare the two things one against the other. So I'm going to say, okay, get out of that, and I'm actually done with my energy analysis.